Hey guys, you requested more supervillain weaknesses, and we have some for you. There are some pretty weird villains out there. Some are just strange, some are completely lame, but a lot of them, particularly the weaker ones, have some pretty ridiculous weaknesses. I'm Ron Mackenzie LaFergie with Top 10 Nerd, and here is part 2 for Top 10 Supervillain Weaknesses. Number 10. Miss Arrow and birds. After Peter Parker's body was eaten by pirate spiders, they then formed into the body of a female, Miss Arrow. Since she was only created because Spider-Man was supposed to die, she set out to finish the job and kill Spider-Man for good. She put up a pretty epic fight and may have defeated Spider-Man, but he managed to lure her into an aviary where a bunch of birds ate her up, one spider at a time. Gross. You'd think with all her powers she could fight off a few birds, but I guess you'll forgive a person made out of spiders for being afraid of birds. Number 9. Sweet Tooth. His weakness is the fact that he could have chosen any weapon he wanted, and he chose to throw candy at his enemies. Seriously, it's like he was trying to be the worst villain ever. If you just gave me a description of him as a guy who throws candy at people and wants to turn a river into chocolate, he sounds more like Willy Wonka than a supervillain. It took about 2 seconds for him to be captured by Batman, and he should just be ashamed. Number 8. Armless Tiger Man and his lack of arms. This one's a bit obscure, but a lot hilarious. An early Marvel villain, Armless Tiger Man first appeared in Marvel Mystery Comics number 26. Gustav Hertz is a German guy who lost both his arms in a mechanical accident and so hates all machines. So naturally, the Nazis sent him to America to destroy American machines with his feet. Now, while he has great dexterity with his feet and razor-sharp teeth, his lack of arms is definitely a drawback. So if you're ever looking to defeat Armless Tiger Man, do pretty much anything that requires arms, I guess. Number 7. He/she, and I guess his or her weakness would be multiple angles. Okay, here's one that's about as dated as they come. He/she was a supervillain that was half man, half woman. Like, literally, one side of the body was a man, one side was a woman. And somehow people didn't notice this until it's too late. Like, he/she will turn to one side and seduce a man as a woman, then face him and go, "Ha, I'm part man," and beat him up and take his money. It's so stupid, and it's so easy to tell if you're not standing at just the right angle. So if a woman is making moves on you, just move slightly to one side and try to see the other side of her face to make sure she isn't the dreaded he/she. But don't actually, because that's stupid. Kind of offensive. Number 6. Snowflame and a lack of cocaine. And explosions, I guess. Snowflame is a drug lord supervillain who draws his abilities from the miraculous power of cocaine. Yeah, who says comic books set bad examples for kids? Doing cocaine makes Snowflame significantly stronger and makes him impervious to pain, which sounds about right for cocaine. But if he runs out or has it extracted from his body somehow, he loses his powers, which is a pretty serious weakness. But he ended up dying in a big explosion, so I guess his secondary weakness is huge explosions. How shocking. Number 5. Floronic Man. His weakness is super forgetfulness. Floronic Man, it seems, has the power to become a plant. When he's decapitated, he grows into the nearest plant, a marijuana plant. He then uses his new pot powers to start selling cheap weed in Gotham. But as you would expect, his new power comes with certain side effects. One of which is, unsurprisingly, forgetfulness, causing him to forget even important things like why he went to Gotham in the first place. Plus, he makes so many terrible weed jokes that it may as well be considered a weakness. Even though he's normally a jerk, Floronic Man did briefly act as a hero. You remember how Snowflame was defeated by the cocaine being extracted from him and his henchmen? Well, guess who absorbed it? That's right! Even though he ended up getting his head chopped off by Batman, at least Floronic Man was able to do something right before he died. Number 4. Big Wheel and his lack of driving ability, and his apparent addiction to villainy. After being blackmailed by Rocket Racer, Jackson Wheel asked the Tinker to make him a giant wheel device to fit his new persona of Big Wheel, which was inspired by Rocket Racer's nickname for him. Unfortunately, he was pretty terrible at driving it and ended up sinking it in a river. He was thought to be dead, but it turned out he escaped, but was later sent to prison for embezzlement, where he joined Vil-Anon, which is basically Alcoholics Anonymous for supervillains. He actually tries to help Spider-Man on a mission as part of his 12-step program, but it turns out he's a terrible hero as well, so he stops. It's too bad, because the wheel is actually pretty sick. Unfortunately, he's just such a bad driver that we never really get to see the wheel in action. Number 3. The Ten-Eyed Man, and his weakness of gloves, I guess. Philip Reardon, an army veteran, was working as a security guard when a group of thieves tried to break in. Batman arrives to fight them, but Reardon mistakes him for a thief and fights him and ends up blinded by burned retinas. After a doctor changes his optic nerves to go to his fingertips, Reardon decides to go after Batman, who he blames for his blindness. Now that he can see with his fingers, his blindness is less of an issue, but like, if he's making a fist or holding something or has something covering his hands, guess what? He's blind. And that's pretty easy to deal with. I'd probably stick to kicking rather than punching, at least I could still be able to see. Number 2. Turner D. Century and his complete lack of technological ability. Clifford Michaels was raised by his stepfather who made him believe he was living in the early 1900s. When he found out the truth, he of course got angry and became a supervillain, because why not? After determining that young people suck, he builds a device called the Horn of Time, which is meant to kill anybody under the age of 65. Problem is, he's terrible with technology and it doesn't work. Dang nabbit. Number 1. Asbestos Lady. And her weakness? Prolonged exposure to asbestos. This one's kind of self-explanatory and amazing. In the 1940s, people didn't really know about the effects of asbestos over a long period of time. Marvel needed a supervillain to defeat the Human Torch, and what better way to defeat a fire hero than a woman covered in fireproof asbestos? To defend herself and her henchmen against fire, she makes asbestos-lined clothes. How is she eventually killed? By lung cancer at age 45 due to asbestos poisoning. Yeah, that's about right. That's it for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you liked learning about these weirdos, smack that like button and subscribe to see more videos. Who do you think the worst villain ever is? Let me know in the comments section. And feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Ron_McKenzie_ or check out my personal YouTube channel for random videos. Until next time, I'm Ron McKenzie LaFergie with Top 10 Nerd. Later, nerds.